Now, the way any machine learning model works is it tries to make sense of patterns and the relationships that exist in the data. And for an ML model to work really well, the data that you are going to provide to the model should be of high quality. Now, in this one, we will try to understand what makes a data as a high quality data. That is, what is the difference or the distinguishing factor between a poor quality data versus a high quality data? Let's understand that in this one. Now, there are so many complex or practical real world problems that you can use machine learning to solve. For example, just the case that we just saw, you can use machine learning to classify a given email as a spam or a ham. That is one case. Another case could be you can use it to predict if a given tissue mass is a malignant or a benign tumor. Another case could be you can use machine learning to estimate the crop yield in a given plantation. That is also a case. You can also use it to flag if a given transaction is a fraudulent transaction or a genuine transaction. These are few successful examples of real world situations where machine learning is actually used. Like I said, machine learning can be used in so many complex real life situations. However, it requires high quality data. But what is high quality? Let's understand. We will understand this based on a real life example where you want to predict the price of a house given various different types of data. But what are those types of data that you will need? Let's imagine you are working as a data scientist for a real estate brokerage firm. Now, the firm is asking you to develop a machine learning model that can predict the price of a house given various different characteristics of a house. Now, as a data scientist, you want to ask back to the firm, I will need so and so data about a given house. And with such data, you will be able to build a machine learning model that can predict the price of a house. Now, given this situation, what sort of information or data would you want to collect in order to predict the price? Well, in this case, even though you are a data scientist, you will have to think like a real estate agent because a real estate agent is the domain expert in this particular situation. Now, what are the different factors a real estate agent will look for? You will look for, say, the area of the house, the location, any schools nearby, what is the width of the road in front of the house. Like this, there are so many other parameters that could be collected, and that in turn will actually determine how much a given house is worth. Now let's assume all this information that is being collected here. In this case, all these are useful information. But it might also be the case where, say, your firm is collecting certain amount of data about real estate, about your locality, right? Say they are collecting how many ice cream parlors are present in around the house. Let's imagine, right? If such data is present, there could be other data also. If your firm is having a lot of data, but none of those data are actually useful in predicting the house price, such a data is not going to help us explain the price of a given house. In such case, we call this as garbage, whereas this data will be very useful data. Now, it could also be the case that some of the useful data can become corrupted. It could be the case that a lot of the data in a particular column goes missing or it could get outdated. For various reasons, certain fields that you have in your data might go unusable. In such cases, that data becomes garbage. Well, with that being said, let's try a small exercise. Here I have two problem statements. One is predicting the farm yield, and the other is predicting the demand for a product. Now, if these are the objectives, can you come up with what sort of data that you would go after in order to predict what is going to be the yield of the farm? That is problem statement one. Second one is what is going to be the demand for a product in the next coming months or days ahead. Just think about this. Pause the video if you have to. Think about what sort of information that you would want in order to predict the yield of a farm. This exercise is just to develop an intuition for what sort of data is required to predict these things. All right, pause the video if you have to. All right, I hope you gave it a shot. If it were me, this is going to be my solution. There's no one single solution to this. If it was me, I would go for things like what is the irrigation that the farm received? What type of soil did the farm have? Fertilizers used, soil nutrients of that particular farm. Was pest control given or not? What was the rainfall in that area? These are some of the factors that could influence the yield of a farm. Likewise, for the demand of a product, in order to predict the demand, I would go for what day of the week it is, what is the month of the year, whether a given day is a holiday or not, what is the price of the product, what is the discount given, and how much was the historic sales for that particular product. This is nowhere near a comprehensive list. This is just to develop an intuition about what sort of data will be useful in order to achieve this. All of these factors can potentially influence how much a given product will sell on a given day. Likewise, all these factors can potentially influence what is going to be the yield of a farm. So, in a real project setting, typically, a data scientist usually works with the domain experts. Plus, you also need to rely on your own judgment and reasoning to decide on what sort of data that you would really want to solve for a particular objective.